and welcome to my August and September wrap-up reads. I read 10 books in August and 10 books in September. I really try to up my reading because I just want to really make a dent in my books that I own that I haven't read pile, which is a huge pile. So let's get started. I'm also not going to be talking about all 20 books because this video would be incredibly long. I'm only going to talk about some of them. The first book that I read was Fairy Tales from the Brothers Grimm. I've had this book for a really long time and I bought it because it's really pretty. I thought for this book I would kind of like read it, you know, throughout the month or 2 months or whatever. So I actually read this cover to cover and I really enjoyed it. I've read Brother Grimm's fairy tales before, but it was kind of neat seeing them back to back and seeing how some overlapped and some were quite similar. So the next book I read was Emily Dickin's Letters. It's this really beautiful copy. I love it so much. I read a collection of her poetry last year, but I enjoyed this a lot more. I just felt like you really got to kind of know her through the letters and it felt more personal, even though poetry can be very personal. I just really enjoyed this and I kind of just wanted to be her friend. She writes beautifully. It is sad in times, but I just really enjoyed it and I was surprised how much I enjoyed it because it was a collection of letters. Even if you haven't read anything of Emily Dickinson's, I think this is a good introduction. I don't think you have to go straight to her poetry. You can, but this was just fantastic. I loved it so much. The next book I read was The Kite Runner that I had been wanting to read for a long time. I've owned this for a while, but I've seen the movie. The movie is like, it's sad and tough to watch. There's a trigger warning because there's like sexual assault. I just didn't want to like read that. Besides that, I really enjoyed this book. It's beautifully written. I love the story, but I really enjoyed it and I want to read more books by him. The next book I read was You Can't Keep a Good Woman Down by Alice Walker. This is a collection of short stories. I liked some short stories better than others. I definitely enjoyed her longer works of fiction. Opposed to this, I just got into the story more than this collection, but it's still a good collection. She's still a fantastic writer. So if you're looking for something, maybe try that. Or just try something by Alice Walker would be my suggestion. Next book I read was Balzac and the Little Chinese Seamstress. This book is mentioned in Anna and the French Kiss and I saw it in a bookstore and I was like, ooh, I should get this. Because I love Anna and the French Kiss, as you probably know, and I like reading books that were mentioned in that. Probably my favorite being like Water for Chocolate so far. So this book is actually semi-autobiographical, which I didn't know when I read. It's about two teenage boys during the Chinese Revolution that are sent to a small rural village, and one of them is a really great storyteller, so they start telling stories to the villagers and they're allowed to see movies, and then they find this trunk of books that are forbidden and they meet this seamstress's daughter. Great book about storytelling and like creating a story. So I read 2 Shakespeare plays, Antony and Cleopatra and Othello. I never really got into Antony and Cleopatra. Didn't do the best reading. I feel like sometimes Shakespeare, you need to give yourself time to read it, and I didn't really do that. But I really enjoyed Othello. Past when I've been reading Shakespeare plays on my own and not like for school. I usually stick to the comedies and not the dramas. Not on purpose, that's what I've done. But I really enjoyed Othello. I've never seen like a production of it or like a movie version of it. So if you have any recommendations of good ones that are out there, let me know. The next book I read was The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe. If you saw my haul video that I did from books that I got when I went to the UK, this was one of them. We were in this small town called Hanway that has like over 30 bookstores, just over 30 bookstores, and I went to 19 of them and it was fantastic. And this was one of the last shops that I went into, and when I popped in, the woman was like, she greeted me, and at one point I'm looking around, she's like, do you mind if I just pop into the shop next door to put my food order in? I was like, yeah, of course. So I had to watch her shop and it was like the best thing is like only for like, I don't know, 5 minutes or less. But I had just sat down in front of shelves and then I saw the Kool-Aid Acid Test, and I've been looking for this book forever. I wanted to buy it secondhand, which is why I haven't found it. So it just made the experience even better. So I bought that and then I finally read it and I hated it so much. Tom Wolfe is a journalist. It's nonfiction. and it's about him following these people that call themselves pranksters, and it's led by this one guy, and they all get high, and like, but it's like he has like these rules for certain getting high to get high, and like they like are filming this movie, but it's like just like this home movie. They're just filming themselves, and I guess what I didn't like about it is like I just hated the people. Like they also like befriend the Hells Angels, who I knew they were like horrible people, but I didn't really know anything about them, and they're just vile. I just really did not like this book. It was so disappointing, but I'll probably keep it because of the story behind the book. The next book I read was The Garden Party and Other Stories by Katherine Mansfield. I think what I really enjoy about just only reading the books that I own, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'm in the mood for something else that I don't own, but it's allowing me to like kind of rediscover what I bought at one point because I was interested in. And I bought this years ago, and I love this. I love this so much. I love her writing. It's very atmospheric. I was like immediately just sucked into each story. It can be kind of depressing, like they can have a very depressing turn. It's just beautifully written, and I enjoyed it so much, and I want to read more about Katherine Mansfield. She didn't write a lot, and she died quite young. Next book I read was Atonement by Ian McEwan. The first page, just, you know, sometimes you sit down and read a book and like the first page you're like, yes, I am totally into this. I was very excited about this book. It spans a good chunk of time in the book, and you kind of focus on different people. I didn't care for all the sections of the book. I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's broken up in 4 sections, and I didn't care for all the sections, but the first part I loved so much. So it's about this family, this rich family, and there are 2 sisters, and the youngest one, Bryony, is kind of like at this age, I forget how old she is, like 11, 12, where she wants to be older. She wants to be seen as being older, and but she loves writing, and she loves telling stories. So she sees something, she sees her other sister, and she thinks she knows what's happening, and she starts telling it, and it's a lie, and it's just kind of this one small story and how it kind of changes this family. I loved it so much. If you've read other things by him, make suggestions of what I should read. The next book I read was The Crucible by Arthur Miller. It is a play. It's kind of like a fictionalized story about the Salem witch trials. I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought. The next book I read, a collection of her essays called Wallflower at the Orgy, which has nothing to do with orgies. Yeah, it's just collections of articles and essays she wrote early in her career. I also read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Like I've mentioned before, there are audiobooks on Spotify, and I thought I found the audiobook for Brave New World, and it is, but it's more like a radio play because they're not reading the text exactly, they've like summarized it. So I started listening to that, and then I was like, I don't think this is the book because it's too short for the book. I really enjoyed that, and I started reading the book. I really enjoyed this a lot. Love the society that they brought up, and like the world that he built, and kind of how he's critiquing our world. So yeah, those are some of the books that I read this month. Let me know what you've been reading, and yeah, let me know. I don't know how to end this. It's been so long and I'm so thirsty. Okay, bye guys.